Let's welcome in marketing expert Scott Baradell. Scott runs the Idea Grove, and there are more and more trends emerging, Scott, of politics and culture in the brands and products that we consume. And in a lot of cases, it turns people off, and in a lot of cases, it turns people on. Buying a product or a service from a company that kind of shares your political values and thoughts. What do you know about this?
Well, I know that where you've had the biggest blow-ups, with brands getting in trouble, it's usually because they didn't do their research. In the case of Bud Light, which of course was a famous case where they aligned with a trans activist, Dylan Mulvaney, they tanked and have never recovered. On the other hand, what a lot of people don't realize is that exact month that Bud Light did that promotion with Dylan Mulvaney, Nike did a promotion of sports bras with Dylan Mulvaney, but it didn't hurt Nike. And so it's just understanding who your brand is, who your customers are, and acting accordingly or suffering the consequences.
Well, I think of last year at this time, Target suffered a bunch of backlash for their over-the-top Pride Month products and advertising. And if you notice, this year, Target and a lot of other companies were really subdued in slapping, Pride Month kind of branding on their products and their services. It's kind of taken a back seat.
Yeah, I think, again, that's an example of maybe the marketing folks getting ahead of themselves or getting ahead of their audience in terms of what they wanted. And sometimes activists, and this can be conservative or liberal activists, are the ones that are kind of highlighting this. But these movements against things that are woke or whatever really wouldn't take off if there wasn't something behind it in terms of people not agreeing with it. And so it's smart for brands to say, oh, I overstepped. I need to adjust.
Now, is there backlash then from the folks that they were initially trying to appeal to, saying, "Well, no, why did you walk that back? We actually supported your brand, your product, because you agreed or identified with what we do"?
Oh yeah, that has definitely happened, because the worst thing you can do is come off as unauthentic. Not the worst thing that having values that I disagree with is having no values at all, right? And Bud Light certainly was a great example of coming off that way. They were just like, what do I need to say now? And none of it felt real. I think with Target, they've been a little more subtle about it. There hasn't really been a lot of backlash in their case. But, what a lot of brands could do that they don't do is, you can align with values, which people really like, without necessarily stepping on these political landmines. If you just say your brand supports sustainability, 90% of people are going to be good with that. But if you step into climate change, well, then you stepped in it, and you're going to have a lot of people upset. Same thing with diversity. People in general aren't opposed to diversity, but when you get into DEI, well, then that's a hot button. So these are easily avoidable mistakes in a lot of cases, where you can have values, you can support things as a company, but not in a way that's divisive. Yeah,
there's a way to go way too far on that. Speaking with marketing and branding expert and founder of the Idea Grove, it's Scott Baradell. So, Scott, I think most people would probably prefer that their brands that they trust and use and products don't have an opinion. I don't want my laundry detergent to take a side. I just want it to clean my clothes. This is generally speaking, but some folks do want to support companies that share their values.
Absolutely. I think particularly in this day and age, more and more people just question how much their vote matters. In other words, hey, you vote for Trump and Trump gets elected in 2016, but you don't feel like you have control over these corporations that are doing programs and DEI and things that you might not agree with. And so how do you counter that? If you're liberal and Trump's elected, you're upset. And so you want to somehow have an impact through supporting or not supporting corporations. So there's a lot of emotion around this, and it's a natural outlet for people that maybe don't feel like they're getting the say they'd like to have through the political system. It's another way to have an impact.
How did we get here? This seems like, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, this seems like a relatively new phenomenon where you identify with products and brands based on, the politics or culture war, if you can use that term, that they subscribe to. I feel like this is a new thing, and I would imagine social media has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, you've had brands that have really aligned with movements or values for a long time. You go back to 20 years ago to Tom's Shoes and the idea that you buy our shoes and we'll give a pair to people in need, and that's representing values. It's pretty much ones that most people would support, and I think we've gotten into things that are more divisive, as almost everything has become a divisive issue. It's so hard to avoid these controversies. So brands that are just, in some cases, trying to do something good don't realize the implications of using the wrong words or doing it in the wrong way.
Do people buy and patronize brands and products and services for things that they agree with, or are they kind of going the other way where it's like, I don't like that? I know I don't like, say, Bud Light, so I'm going to choose a different brand.
Yeah, there's been a whole kind of anti-woke economy that's emerged. Daily Wire has been a big beneficiary of this. They made $22 million, about a tenth of all their revenues last year, off of these kind of anti-woke products. And that could be anything from novelty products like a Liberal Tears dog bowl to things that are more substantive, like they created Jeremy's razors, which have been very successful as an alternative to Harry's razors, because Harry razors had, for political reasons, had decided to stop advertising with them. And it's been a very successful product. So I think it really comes down to, in a lot of cases, it's going to be novelty products. It's going to have limited appeal. But if the quality is good, there was a recent survey that said, asked people if a product is basically a commodity, if two things are similar in terms of their quality to you, would the values or politics of one brand sway you? And over 70% of people said, all other things being equal, I'll take the brand that aligns with my politics or my values.
It's well said, and he is the expert, Scott Baradell of Idea Grove. Thank you for that information. Have a great week. We'll talk again soon.